Thanks for checking out this video. You could be listening to any idiot on the internet with a mic in front of them, but you chose to listen to us, and we appreciate that.
We're sending you a virtual hug. If you have any trade questions or start-sit questions, leave a comment. Justin or myself will definitely respond, or maybe even both of us will respond.
If you like the video, drop us a like, comment, sub. You know the drill.
Welcome to A Tribe Called Fantasy with your hosts, Greg and Justin.
Welcome to our trade target, sell target video. We're going to throw a couple people your way, a couple people you want to go out and trade for, a couple people you want to sell while they're hot. We have a pretty strong take on how we do our trades, just like stocks, baby.
Yeah.
Buy low, sell high. So if they're having a monster week, they had the best week of their life, get rid of their ass. If they are struggling, but you know that they got production looming around the corner, they got good playoff matchups, that's where you want to scoop. And to start us off, we're going to hit up Nick Chubb. He's been on IR for a bit, banged up with injuries. He's aiming for a week 10 return, but the beauty here is that playoff schedule. Baltimore, Giants, Jets. If you could scoop him and you're making a playoff push, that is going to look very good for your final 2 weeks. He had a very impressive run before he got injured. Kevin Stefanski always wants to run the ball, and you definitely could see a slight discount because he's on IR. Maybe not as much so if you since you didn't trade for him right away, but the fact that he still is a few weeks out, maybe you can make some moves happen.
This is obviously too case by case. Like, you can't just like willy-nilly go after this player. Like, you can't just it's really situationally based. If you're trying to eye up Nick Chubb, hopefully that owner is struggling at the moment, but has still playoff hopes. Because if they're like 0-7, they're probably not going to do any trades because their season's over. They're probably done. But
exactly. You
got to find someone that's struggling, because if their team is winning and they have Nick Chubb, they're not going to trade you Nick Chubb. And it depends too on your assets and what you need, but I think this is a good trade target because he hasn't been producing for the team that he's on. But he's obviously a phenomenal player. He's going to be coming back from injury, so there's going to be a bit of like hesitations in that sense. But
yeah, maybe talk him down. Oh, he's not going to be that great when he comes back. You're going to have to wait.
Kareem Hunt's been balling out.
Yeah, but even with Kareem Hunt there, you can expect big things from Nick Chubb because they'll just put Kareem Hunt in the slot. They'll give him 10 carries instead of 20. Continue to give Nick Chubb 10 carries, especially with Odell Beckham out.
Yeah,
they're gonna look to run even more.
You're definitely gonna have to give up a solid running back and probably another piece in order to gain Nick Chubb, though. So you definitely have to make sure that you're in a situation in which your playoff hopes are still going to be alive without probably an essential piece on your squad. I could see you having to give up someone like a Todd Gurley or
David Johnson.
David Montgomery would be a nice piece to give away for a Nick Chubb. So you won't be able to do that, but one of these players who's really adding value to your team week in and week out.
If you have the depth, I think something like maybe Todd Gurley or David Johnson, and then maybe just like a fringe wide receiver who you start, like a DJ Chark. Mm-hmm. He hasn't really produced for you that well. But
what about like a T. Higgins? Do you think that's too much?
I was actually thinking T. Higgins, but I don't know. That might be too much. It really depends on your wide receivers. You probably got T. Higgins late, so you can afford it.
Yeah.
But you just want to make sure that you still have the depth. Like, you never want to make a trade where you just give away your squad for one good player.
And at the end of the day, too, we're playing for championships. I mean, you have to make the playoffs first, but ultimately you want players who you're going to be able to play week 16 that are going to help you win that championship. And with a New York Jets matchup, week 16 championship week, that's super juicy.
So juicy.
If you have the players, that's definitely a trade that I want to get done.
100%. Moving on next, we have Myles Gaskin, who I personally think we'll see an increase in his usage with Tua Tagovailoa starting.
Oh, I think you nailed that pronunciation, to be honest.
I've been working on it. Another good thing is he's already passed his bye week, so you're not going to have to worry about that anymore. Jordan Howard, he's been a healthy scratch, so the goal line work is Myles Gaskin. Myles Gaskin is the first, second, and third down back. He's the passing back.
What about Matt Breida?
Ignore that comment. He's good. He's like, it's crazy. You never would have expected Myles Gaskin, but he's on another level. His playoff schedule is the Kansas City Chiefs, the New England Patriots, and the Las Vegas Raiders. So middle of the road matchups, nothing cakewalk like Nick Chubb has, but definitely somebody you should be trying to get on your squad, honestly.
Yeah. I'm trying to even think of like players that would possibly be
I think a
you'd
lot
be
of
selling to gain him.
I think a lot of thing too is Myles Gaskin doesn't have that weight.
No, he doesn't.
So maybe you put together like a Mike Evans and then like a David Montgomery and somebody's eyes lights up, or maybe Melvin.
I feel like that's too high.
Two for Myles Gaskin.
I don't know that I would want that. I think I'd rather
I'm
have Mike
taking
Evans
that.
and David Montgomery.
No chance. I'd rather have Mike Evans is just too inconsistent.
The upside is so high though.
Yeah.
That's what would make me hesitate. But if someone were to offer me David Montgomery and Mike Evans for Myles Gaskins,
it would really depend on your wide receivers. But if you
Yeah, it
have a Robbie Anderson, a Justin Jefferson, and just like maybe you have Jarvis Landry on your bench and you can afford that,
yeah, that's true.
having Myles Gaskin and you have weak running backs is just a huge upside, because Myles Gaskin he's averaging, let's see,
I mean,
14.2 PPR points, and it's
probably like 15 touches a game. He's involved in the passing game as well, which is massive for PPR.
After week 3, he has not seen single digit attempts rushing.
A trade that I was proposed was Myles Gaskin and Marvin Jones Jr. for Antonio Gibson.
Looking back, I would have taken that.
Looking back, I would have too. Yeah, Myles Gaskin's getting the work. Antonio Gibson's more in a split back.
100%.
But
you want to take our next two?
Sure thing. Because next up on our trade target, we got a big name, Ezekiel Elliott. He's definitely been underperforming for the Ezekiel Elliott owner. They're probably nervous at the moment. The Cowboys look horrible. Zeke hasn't looked great. He's had fumble issues. We've called him a sad boy. He looks sad on the sideline.
Bro, he's actually a sad boy.
But the fact of the matter is there have been injuries to that offensive line. Players are going to be coming back. That offensive line is going to get better. They're going to continue to use Zeke. He's too talented not to. He's involved in the passing game. I feel like I've heard a lot of things on like fantasy like ESPN's fantasy football show talking about his like lack of usage in the passing game.
Second in targets.
There you go, baby. I mean,
6.6 a game.
When you look at the numbers, he's definitely involved in the passing game, which is massive for PPR. That floor is just always going to give you a safe play. And he has the talent and the ability to just explode. He's definitely got some juicy some of them are okay down the stretch. Bengals, 49ers, and Eagles.
The Eagles one is tough, but I like the first two.
Yeah, the first two are definitely good. And a little bit of divisional rivalry with the Eagles, so that should be a competitive game, assuming that division is soft. I mean, they're still in the running to be involved there. So
yeah, I think if you have Zeke, you hold on to him. If you're the boy Isaac down in the comments,
yo, shout out Isaac, man.
Shout out
we really
Isaac.
Appreciate your engagement.
Yeah, 100%.
Love talking to you.
But damn, that Aaron Jones trade for Zeke looks a little worse now, but I think you can hold on to Zeke and just feel pretty good about it, honestly, because I do think he'll bounce back. We'll obviously eat those words if he doesn't.
Or Zeke will eat and find himself.
Hey, he's got the feed me tats. So.
Yeah. I mean, even in week 6 against the Cardinals, when he was looking down, he still had 12 points, which obviously is not what you want from Ezekiel Elliott, but he had 12 carries for 49 yards, 8 receptions for 31 yards. I mean, there's only 2 games where he's had 1 reception. So this narrative of him not being involved in the passing game, it just doesn't – it's purely narrative. I can't imagine that Andy Dalton's going to be slinging it downfield. He's going to be looking for checkdowns with Zeke. So I think he's a really good target. The owner is still probably going to try and want a lot for him, but if they're kind of low, definitely play into that and try and buy him on the cheap if you can.
Yeah, because now's the time. I don't think he'll get cheaper.
I don't think so either. This is the week to strike on Ezekiel Elliott. Next on the list, we have Jamison Crowder. Just not a sexy name on quite the opposite of a sexy team, and has injury history. So why would you want to acquire him? Well, let me tell you. Just his scores alone, 24.5 points, 17, 25.6, 11. When he's playing, he was out he was out last week in weeks 2 and 3, but when he's on the field, he is the only playmaker that's on that team. And it's a shitty team, but I mean, someone's got to catch the balls, and he's just produced week in and week out, taking on the Seattle Seahawks, Los Angeles Rams, and Cleveland Browns down the stretch. If you're struggling at wide receiver, this is definitely a wide receiver I think you could get on the low.
Yeah, I think the fact that he has missed so many games could definitely play into your favor. Play that card. This guy, his injury problems, he's on the Jets. How much do you really want him? Because most likely the person who owns Jamison Crowder is just surprised every single week.
Yeah.
They're happy, obviously, but he is just, you never know because he's on the Jets. So it's one of those things where you can just play that to your strengths, but know that Jamison Crowder is an actual superstar talent. Superstar might be a all-star talent.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's, if you had Jarvis Landry, would you trade Jarvis Landry for Jamison Crowder?
In a heartbeat.
I love that answer.
In a heartbeat.
What about, I'm trying to think of another player.
I would trade Mike Evans I would want Jamison Crowder over Mike Evans.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, that sounds a bit spicy, but I would agree.
Yeah.
I really would. I mean, they both have injury history, but Jamison Crowder's producing. Mike Evans is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. If you have Mike Evans, that's a trade that you could easily do, in my opinion.
For sure.
I think if you hit the Jamison Crowder owner with a Mike Evans,
that name alone carries weight.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely look to acquire Jamison Crowder, but I would not overpay for Jamison Crowder by any means. I would only do it if I could get him on the low.
100%.
Yep.
You want to take all right. So we're going to move on to the sell targets. We got 4 here. I'm going to let Greg take this first and third one. I'm going to handle the second and fourth.
Okay. Well, our first one is Antonio Gibson. As a matter of fact, I myself just sold Antonio Gibson prior to week 7.
Yeah.
Which ended up obviously biting me in the ass because I traded him for OBJ.
Smart.
Yeah. I mean,
smart.
At the time, I was super excited about the trade. It seemed like a very fair trade. Both players that had kind of underperformed but had super high talent and good opportunities. Antonio Gibson is in a split backfield, though, which is cause for concern. J.D. McKissick is super involved in the passing game, too. Antonio Gibson kind of went off this weekend, though, had 20 points, had a touchdown.
Yeah.
The touchdown definitely inflated his numbers.
I think that's exactly why you can sell him so high.
Exactly.
It's his season high. Now is the time to strike while the iron is hot. You're not going to get a better value for Antonio Gibson. Maybe you can trade him, split him up into 2 players if you don't have depth. Maybe you can get him for I don't know. Who would you – wide receiver, or would you be looking for a running back?
If you have Antonio Gibson, chances are, and you're trying to sell Antonio Gibson, you probably have running back depth. So maybe you're lacking depth in other areas, and I could definitely see you picking up a solid wide receiver for Antonio Gibson, like I had done.
I like a Jarvis Landry.
Exactly. I mean that would be a trade that I wish I could do now. Obviously now missing. He did have 20 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. So if you're wanting to hang on to Antonio Gibson, it makes sense, but he had a really favorable matchup. The Dallas Cowboys defense has just been very porous. So I really don't think that you're going to get – he plays the Cowboys again week 12. He does have a bye week this week 8, so it may be hard to sell him. But, you have that week to kind of shop him around and flex that 20-carry, 128-yard, 1-touchdown game.
That carries weight.
Yeah,
no
that carries a lot of weight. And a lot of people know Antonio Gibson's name now. I had several trade offers for Antonio Gibson.
I think a lot of other like channels and networks and stuff, they're on the Antonio Gibson hype train. Yeah. And I think that benefits you if you are trying to get rid of him.
Yeah. I mean, or maybe you're not, but obviously if you're listening here, we're saying to sell him while he's at his highest. And
I think that I personally don't think he'll have a better game.
Yeah, I lean towards agreement, but
18.8.
We could always eat our words. I don't know if he's going to get 20 carries again.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have a better rushing game, I'll say. Maybe point wise, but we'll move on though. We got Jarvis Landry coming up next. He does have a nice playoff matchup. He's got Baltimore, Giants, and the Jets. Something you could use as leverage.
Yep.
I like Jarvis Landry a lot. If you listen to anything we say about Jarvis Landry, he's one of our favorite players, just as a dude and just as a player. He's got steez. He's got great hands.
Works hard.
Works
Doesn't
hard.
Complain.
Nah, man, he'll block the shit out of you.
Yep.
But just the fact that the situation is so unknown, I could totally see a world where they stick to their running game. Rashard Higgins steps up. Harrison Bryant steps up. David Njoku steps up. And Jarvis Landry is just back to mediocre consistency, back to the 10 to 12 point range. And I think that as of now, his situation is so unknown that you can sell him as this wide receiver one with such great potential upside. And you can sell him on the fact that his playoff matchups are so good and then still get great value out of it. But if he underperforms, all of your trade assets gone, and now you're just stuck with Jarvis.
Yeah.
Which it's tough because he could pop off, but weighing the knowns versus the unknowns, trading him for maybe higher than he should be traded, it just makes sense to me. I don't know how you feel about it, Greg.
No, I 100% agree. I do see an outcome where he does emerge as a true wide receiver one. He's done it before, so we know it's possible. But this Browns team has just been run first.
That's Kevin Stefanski
for
you.
And so I don't see that slowing down when it's been decently successful for them. But yeah, I don't. Maybe you wait and see how he does this week and then trade him or then sell him. But if you need running back depth, I think I really think that Antonio Gibson for Jarvis Landry, if it's a mutually beneficial trade, is a really great trade. I think that's a really good trade, honestly. But yeah, Jarvis Landry's upside is huge, but we just don't know what it looks like because of that run first offense.
100%.
Anything left to say about Jarvis?
No, I think we move on to the big guy.
The big guy. We don't get a chance to talk about tight ends a lot.
No.
Due to the nature of our videos. We've made some tight end videos, haven't done well.
No, they have not.
Partly on our scheduling, but
yeah, 100%.
Anyways, the man in question here is Rob Gronkowski, coming off of two really solid performances. Week 6 took on the Packers with 5 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown, close to 19 fantasy points. Last week against the Raiders had 5 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown. Chances are, if you have Gronk, you probably scooped him up off the waivers, which means hopefully that means you have a better tight end option. Or maybe you're playing Gronk. But either way, it is a desolate wasteland in tight end worlds. And he has some good matchups down the stretch, which add to your potential to trade him. He does have a bye week in week 13. So maybe your games are coming down to the line that week 13. You're not going to be able to play him. It's definitely something to consider. But I don't know if his value is going to get any higher after these handful of performances. His targets have been about 8 targets per game the past few games.
I don't think it gets higher, especially because AB's now there.
Exactly. That is the reason we're saying to sell Gronk is because of AB. Once AB comes in, I mean, no one gets open like AB gets open.
Boy, quick. Tony Toe Tap.
And when we saw AB with Tom Brady, they had a rapport going.
It was crazy.
After one, that was it. It was one game. They looked good.
They just looked at each other and started melding.
So, I mean, this is definitely a player that you want to sell while they're high. Gronk also has an injury history. He's not young. He's not spry. Their tight ends are injured too, so he's going to see heavy workload. This all kind of alludes to him maybe being overworked, potentially seeing injuries plague him. And two, maybe you wait another week, let your buyers see him perform one time more with Chris Godwin out, and then you ship him before AB comes in, and you have Mike Evans, AB, and Chris Godwin Oh, don't forget too, they have Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette,
Scotty.
and Scotty Miller. Like they have weapons all over the place, and at some point Gronk is going to get lost in the mix, and I think that's definitely going to be more of what you're seeing in these next couple of weeks with AB finally joining the squad.
I like it, man. This was a contentious one. This one's all me. My next sell target is going to be Tyler Lockett, the 53-point man himself, PPR. Just had himself probably the best game of his career. 15 catches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. We were saying earlier, we've never seen a game this good
None.
from a receiver.
Yeah.
It's just absurd.
It was insane.
Yeah, he has his last matchups, playoff matchups, are the Jets, Washington, and the Rams. So he definitely has a very tough matchup championship weekend. But the main reason here that I think he's a sell is just the boom or bust nature that is Tyler Lockett. You've probably won some games with Tyler Lockett. You probably lost some games because of Tyler Lockett. And it's just not a game you want to play. He's the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy right now. That holds weight. He can drop 50. That holds weight. And then you could just chalk up those week 4 and week 5 sub 10 games to, that was just like matchup. That was just schemes. And you could make a good case for that. But I think selling him now, while he is the highest he will ever be, I don't think he will ever have value like this. I think that's the move. I think you can get a top 5, top 10 wide receiver and maybe an additional flex player. And I think that would make your team overall better. Just someone with more consistency.
Maybe you score Myles Gaskin and another wide receiver for Tyler Lockett.
Like a Myles Gaskin, T. Higgins, or Justin Jefferson.
I'm only selling, in my opinion, Tyler Lockett if I need wide receiver and running backs.
What if you need it? What about Allen Robinson for Tyler Lockett straight up?
That's a hard one. I mean,
I think I'd rather have Allen Robinson. You just know
Allen Robinson's more consistent, but he's not gonna have these boom games like Tyler Lockett.
What about Keenan Allen? See, I like both of these players strictly because you know they're gonna get 10 targets.
Yeah, I mean, those are hard ones. Those are really hard questions. I don't know, man. I really don't know.
Like I said, a bit of contention here, but just my personal opinion, I'm going to sell Tyler Lockett. Greg seems like a hold.
I don't know. Dude, that's a hard. I would definitely consider both of those trades. They both have. Well, I don't know so much about Allen Robinson. Does he have an injury history much?
I do believe he gets banged up, but I don't think he's missed that many games.
I mean, they both get massive amounts of targets, but that offense is just so nice. It's firing on all cylinders. It's firing on all cylinders. I don't know that I want out of that. Yeah, that's a hard one.
My biggest thing though
I'm probably holding Tyler Lockett personally.
If you're holding on to Tyler Lockett and he goes crazy against the Jets, but then he drops another 50-point game against the Jets, gets you into the round 2 of the playoffs, and then against Washington and the Rams, he drops 10. You just lost.
Yeah.
So maybe he drops 3, drops 4. It's like you just never know with Tyler Lockett. The unknown behind him just makes me want to get rid of him.
I've had Tyler Lockett in years previous, and my experience was not so much boom or bust. It was always a consistent 12 points. So I have a bit of favoritism towards Tyler Lockett.
That was pre-DK Metcalf.
And I don't know. I think DK Metcalf really, in a way, it helps him. I don't know. It's hard to want to sell Tyler Lockett after seeing what he just did and what he's done with Russell Wilson in previous years.
I think that's exactly why you trade him.
That's fair.
I have George Kittle. I wish I had Travis Kelce. He dropped 40.
Yeah.
I wanted to trade him. I had pretty solid offers, and I just never could pull the trigger because I was sitting there looking at the 40 thinking, damn, but he could do this next week.
Yeah.
He could do this next week. And he didn't. And I think with Tyler Lockett, you're going to be looking at yourself thinking the same thing because I think he's going to drop a couple of back-to-earth games, a couple of 10s, a couple of 8s, and then maybe a 30 here and there. And every time he drops a 30, you're kind of tricking yourself into thinking how amazing it is if he scored 30 every week, but it's not possible. And I just think after a 53-point game, you're never going to be able to trade him for more.
Yeah, my whole hesitation though is even the best wide receivers, Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, all of these wide receivers are going to have games where they don't give you the output. I think I'd rather have any of those wide receivers over Tyler Lockett. Maybe you try and get Devontae Adams for Tyler Lockett straight up.
Wow, if you can do that, you do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you can flip Tyler Lockett for one of these other wide receivers like Devontae Adams, I probably would rather have Tyler Lockett than Julio Jones, just because Tyler Lockett's going to be on the field more than Julio Jones. But yeah, if you can flip Tyler Lockett for Devontae Adams, I wouldn't think twice about doing that one.
Yeah, I mean, all right, scenario here, you're what is it? What's the middle of the road record? 4-3.
Yeah, 4-3.
You're 4-3. You're
maybe less.
You're 3-4.
Yeah.
And your wide receivers are pretty average, and Tyler Lockett is your second wide receiver.
Yeah.
But your running backs are Melvin Gordon and David Montgomery.
Yeah.
You can trade if you trade Tyler Lockett and say David Montgomery, and you can secure Myles Gaskin and maybe a Robbie Anderson. That just seems like a better deal. Like something to just overall improve, like something consistent.
Yeah.
So it's like if Tyler Lockett is your third wide receiver, you keep Tyler Lockett just because all right, maybe he'll drive me 50 this week.
Yeah.
But I think just overall for most teams, it's gonna benefit you more.
If you need a running back, you package Tyler Lockett with another player and you upgrade that position. Your running backs are going to win you championships at the end of the day. That's where both of us stand.
That's facts.
As far as that goes. So if your best running back is Todd Gurley or some shit like that because you had injuries, maybe even you use Tyler Lockett and another player to cop a Nick Chubb in another strong wide receiver. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Like you definitely want to. You want to have the best running backs you can possibly get. That's what's going to win you championships at the end of the day.
Well, guys, hope you liked the video. If you have any other trade targets or sell targets, drop them in the comments below. We'll respond to you, let you know how we feel about it. Maybe you got something for us. Maybe you like Jarvis Landry and you got some stats for why. Just let us know. Hope you liked it. Peace, boys.